Hi, how are you? I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and will the BAKKT launch help Bitcoin go mainstream? A lot of people have been talking about for years about Bitcoin becoming mainstream, about its adoption increasing and all of that sort of thing. It's an important discussion. Especially since with today's market, 0.4% of the people out in the world actually are using and invested in Bitcoin and in other cryptocurrencies. Now, here's the interesting thing about that number. In 1995, 0.4% of the people were using the internet. Think about what 1995 was like. To get on the internet, you subscribe to somebody like American Online, AOL, or Prodigy, or one of the other subscriptions. You had a modem that was a dial-up modem. And then you'd hear these loud noises as it went over your phone lines, and you had your modem communicating over the phone lines to connect you up to American Online or Prodigy or some other similar service to get you actually on the internet. And today, all you do is pick up your phone. Today's smartphones has 86% of the world's population is online. So we've gone from 0.4 to 86%. Now, I don't know if Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency in particular is ever going to see 86% of the world's population utilizing that cryptocurrency. But what if we got 50% market penetration? What if we got 40% market penetration? What if we got just 10% market penetration, where 10% of the world's population was using Bitcoin or a similar cryptocurrency? Can you imagine what that'll do to the price of the cryptocurrencies that fluctuate in price? They'll go sky high. And so a lot of people wonder, am I too late for Bitcoin? Well, the answer is probably no, but time will tell. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. So everything I just said, that's definitely my opinion. I am not smarter than you. You are smarter than you realize. Do not trust what I say. Do your own research. And that's one of the problems with a lot of people that I see is they trust too many people without verifying the information they're being told. And because of that trust, sometimes they get burned. I don't want you to get burned. I know that I'm fallible, and the information I'm presenting to you, some of it is my opinion, and my opinion is wrong from time to time. So that's why I say, do not trust what I say because I will be wrong. Do your own research, because when it comes to investing, you need to be making decisions for yourself and for your money based off of the information you've gathered. And don't just gather it from me. Don't just gather it from a single source. Gather it from multiple sources. Get as smart as you can before you put your dollars to work to grow your wealth in any endeavor, whether it's cryptocurrency or stocks or real estate or even just at your own job from a day-to-day basis. So anyway, enough said. Will the BAKKT launch help Bitcoin go mainstream? And so there is a video on this article, and if you like, you can look it up. On September 22nd, a product designed to remake Bitcoin as a mainstream investment for the world's investment managers will go live. When ICE Futures US, one of the world's largest commodities markets, and ICE Futures US is the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange, opens trading at 8 p.m. Eastern Time that day, it will offer BAKKT daily and monthly Bitcoin futures contracts. The first physically delivered cryptocurrency futures contracts ever traded on a federally regulated exchange. If the exchange works as planned, it will give institutional investors a secure, well-monitored place to trade Bitcoin, the world's most widely used cryptocurrency. That in turn could help alleviate the problems with volatility and trustworthiness that have kept Bitcoin from being more widely adopted, giving the asset a major boost in legitimacy. With backed futures, endowment funds, brokerage firms that trade the contracts will be able to channel their payments and a secure guarantee that their Bitcoin will be delivered through the same ICE clearinghouse that protects, settles contracts traded by global oil giants. Their newly purchased tokens will be stored in a super secure warehouse overseen by the same team, deploying the same cybersecurity measures that safeguards their equity trades on the New York Stock Exchange. So with traditional large investors and institutional investors knowing that their money is safeguarded by the same cybersecurity measures, by the same safeguards that they've come to trust with the New York Stock Exchange, is a big deal. And that's what BAKKT offers. Now, the BAKKT exchange went live a couple of weeks ago. And based off of their volume, it is not very exciting to look at. Their volume is actually pretty low. On the flip side, on one side of the coin, I have some concerns about that. But on the flip side of that coin, I know that BAKKT is not just going to be doing cryptocurrency futures. They're also going to be, the BAKKT exchange is a joint venture with Starbucks, Microsoft, and several other venture and capital firms, venture capital firms, several other hedge funds. There's about a half a dozen or so businesses that are involved in the BAKKT exchange, the BAKKT futures endowment, the BAKKT exchange, the company that was set up for handling the BAKKT exchange. And those organizations are already planning phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 is to take Bitcoin into Starbucks. And want to talk about going mainstream? Bitcoin going into Starbucks is definitely going to make cryptocurrency mainstream. The venture behind this effort to wed tradition and disruption. And that's really the key thing that you want to hear here. Even though the BAKKT exchange has had a weak introduction in terms of its current volume on a daily basis, they're set up to disrupt things. And they're going to bring blue chip asset managers off the sidelines to embrace cryptocurrencies. Is BAKKT so called because it's backed by a majority owner intercontinental exchange? Intercontinental exchange, the short version of that name is ICE. And ICE is a $52 billion market cap trading colossus. In other words, if you wanted to buy stock in ICE, and ICE is the company that owns BAKKT, they own the New York Stock Exchange, they own 12 different exchanges worldwide, and they own 8 different clearinghouses worldwide. Well, their stock has a market cap of $52 billion. And they have an annual sales of $9 billion in revenue, and they keep about 40-something% of their profit after expenses. So they're extremely profitable, extremely profitable. ICE is a $52 billion market cap trading colossus, and they own the New York Stock Exchange. They own the NYSE ARCA, the world's largest platform for ETFs. They own ICE Futures US, one of the world's dominant players in agricultural commodities. And they own ICE Futures Europe, home of the Brent trading crude contract that's the leading benchmark for world oil prices. BAKKT is the brainchild of ICE's co-founder and CEO Jeff Sprecher, long the leading figure in the transformation of major exchanges from open outcry venues dominated by rowdy floor brokers to today's electronic marketplaces. So it was Jeff Sprecher who took the stock exchanges kicking and screaming from an old way of doing things where you had a bunch of guys with pieces of paper yelling and screaming at each other as they bought and sold stocks, to today's world of electronic marketplaces where you go onto a web browser, log into your TD Ameritrade, your E-Trade, your TradeStation, or whatever other online stock brokerage account you use. You log into a web browser and you buy and sell stocks right from your laptop anywhere around the world, on the penny market, on the New York Stock Exchange, on the NASDAQ. But all of that happens today because of the efforts of Jeff Sprecher as he worked on the New York Stock Exchange. And so they bought the New York Stock Exchange in the early 2000s. I think it was like 98 or pre-98, somewhere in that time frame. And they're the ones that turned the New York Stock Exchange into what it is today. So I'm telling you all of this because I really want to drill in the point of how these guys have the history and the backing, financial backing, and the partnership with Starbucks and Microsoft in order to disrupt the credit card industry, in order to disrupt Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, in order to disrupt several aspects of the banking systems. I mean, it's hard to say how big and how far this will actually go, but it definitely has a lot of potential, even though the initial launch of the exchange has not been as strong as you would have anticipated. Trading was initially expected to begin last December, but the timetable proved far too optimistic. The federal government shutdown in December and January delayed talks with BAKKT's main regulators for the Commodity Future Trading Commission. The CFTC also reportedly took time mulling whether to oversee custody of digital assets, but so far hasn't committed to taking on that role, further extending the approval process. Meanwhile, the BAKKT buzz receded, and news that a prestigious consortium, including Facebook and Visa, plan to create a global cryptocurrency named Libra, stole the headlines. Now, BAKKT is back. Despite the delays, its product will beat Libra to the market and will start trading before competing contracts planned by LedgerX and ErisX. BAKKT secured approval from the CFTC in June and cleared the final hurdle on August 16th when the New York State Department of Financial Services granted it a charter for creating of a trust company as its vehicle for custody. Over the past few weeks, BAKKT granted Fortune exclusive interviews with Sprecher, Loeffler, COO Adam White, and other executives, including in-person talks with BAKKT's main office, a glass cube in an office building near ICE's modest headquarters on the outskirts of Atlanta. So, making Bitcoin more popular. The BAKKT brass stressed that their immediate goal is making Bitcoin a popular alternative investment along with gold and private equity. But an efficient, regulated market in the currency could eventually remake the way we pay for everything from coffee to airline tickets. Now, take note of this sentence because there's significance there. But an efficient, regulated market in the currency could eventually remake the way we pay for everything from coffee to airline tickets. The reason I say pay careful attention to that sentence is because that sentence is exposing the vision that Jeff Sprecher and the BAKKT exchange has for what they're building. The funds that trade on our exchanges express to us that they don't want to deal in today's unregulated markets and want end-to-end federal oversight on the level of the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, to feel safe trading Bitcoin, says Loeffler. Adds White, pension funds, for example, are diversifying into alternatives. Regulated Bitcoin futures could be part of their investment mandate since they have different correlations with both stocks and bonds and other alternatives such as gold. Once hedge funds, family offices, and the Charles Schwabs or TD Ameritrades of this world embrace Bitcoin, the gigantic trading volumes in the BAKKT contracts should smooth the lurching price swings that scare both investors and would-be users, creating a stable, trusted currency. If and when that happens, it's not hard to imagine that BAKKT will create a Bitcoin app for retail purchases. BAKKT hasn't shared its plans for retail payments publicly, but acknowledges that its partnership with Starbucks suggests big plans in the future. It also is in talks with other consumer brands looking to use digital currencies for consumer payments. After all, the big fees that credit card companies and banks extract from members are ripe for disruption, and Sprecher's a past master at making an array of transactions faster and cheaper. For now, Sprecher tells Fortune whether asset managers will transform strong interest into actions is highly uncertain, creating an aura of suspense around the launch. It's not demand yet, it's intense curiosity, he says. It's the sense that money managers want to be at the front of this train and not left out. The day-to-day news covers Bitcoin when the prices go way up or way down, but underneath, we see sophisticated people investing in infrastructure and compliance that's unrelated to the price. But they won't use that infrastructure. There won't be a true global acceptance until we can build out the rails in a regulated manner. It will take weeks or months before BAKKT's Wall Street audience judges its production a hit or a flop, notes Sprecher. It's like opening night, he says. Everyone is nervous. So this article goes on. There's a lot of great information in here. I'm going to put a link to it in case you want to get more info and dig into this deeper. I encourage you to do so, especially if you're invested in cryptocurrency and in Bitcoin. In the meantime, I want to ask, how can I be of service to you? If you have any questions, you can publicly ask those questions by using the comments below, or you can privately ask us those questions by using the link to the Google form that we have in the description of this video. And if you want us to reply back to you, just leave us an email address and we would be happy to reply to any inquiries you have. In the meantime, I want to say, hey, like, subscribe, and hodl. Click on the bell for notifications of future videos. Thanks, and I hope you have a fantastic day.